What happens when immigration enforcement crosses the line from law and order into constitutional overreach? What happens when families are torn apart, immigrants detained without clear evidence, and judges are forced to step in because government agencies cannot justify their actions? Today, we dive deep into one of the most controversial developments in America's immigration enforcement under President Donald Trump, the growing storm surrounding ICE raids in West Virginia. This story is not just about arrests. It's about civil rights, constitutional protections, political power, and the fragile balance between national security and human freedom. Over the past few weeks, federal judges have raised serious concerns about how ICE is arresting and detaining immigrants, while communities are left shaken, businesses worried, and families living in fear. This is a story of law, politics, power, and the human cost of immigration policy. Over the last month, West Virginia, a state not typically at the center of immigration debates, has become a front line in President Trump's immigration crackdown. ICE operations have surged across the state, with reports of raids at restaurants, work sites, traffic stops, and even community events. Social media flooded with posts from frightened residents reporting sightings of ICE agents. Entire immigrant communities began sharing alerts to warn one another. What once felt distant, immigration raids seen in border states or large cities suddenly became a daily reality in small towns and neighborhoods across West Virginia. Fear spread quickly. Families wondered if going to work, attending court hearings, or even driving on the highway could result in detention. The legal controversy escalated after a traffic stop near an Interstate 77 toll booth. State police stopped a vehicle, pulled at least one passenger out, and contacted ICE. Among those detained was Anthony Segundo Larrazabal Gonzalez, a Venezuelan citizen who had been living in the United States, building a new life, and attending immigration proceedings as required. He was transferred between multiple detention centers, eventually landing in South Central Regional Jail. Another passenger, Damaria Alejandra Rodriguez Flores, originally from Honduras, was also arrested. She had fled her home country, still recovering from devastating natural disasters, seeking safety and stability in the U.S. Their arrests sparked outrage, legal challenges, and ultimately, a powerful response from the federal courts. In two scathing rulings, U.S. District Judge Joseph R. Goodwin ordered both detainees released, stating that federal agents had wrongly jailed them. The judge found no credible evidence that either individual posed a threat to public safety or national security. Even more troubling, the government failed to justify why they were detained at all. In court, when asked to explain the arrests and detentions, a government lawyer repeatedly responded, "I don't know." This response stunned the courtroom. Judge Goodwin did not hold back. There's not a shred of evidence to support the government's position, not one iota, not a jot or a tittle. His ruling emphasized a critical point. Freedom is the constitutional default, not detention. A central theme in Goodwin's ruling was that immigrants, even those without legal status, still have constitutional protections. Under the Fifth Amendment, no person may be deprived of liberty without due process of law. This means the government must provide a legitimate reason before detaining someone. Goodwin reminded the public that constitutional rights do not disappear based on immigration status. Despite what some may believe, immigrants illegally in this country enjoy protections guaranteed by the Fifth Amendment. This statement directly challenges political rhetoric suggesting immigrants have fewer legal rights than citizens. West Virginia is not alone. Across the United States, more than 300 federal judges have ruled against Trump-era immigration detention policies. Many courts have found that mass detention efforts lack sufficient legal justification. The concern is growing nationwide. Are immigration enforcement agencies prioritizing speed and political messaging over constitutional law? Are people being jailed simply because they are immigrants, rather than because they pose real threats? This legal resistance marks one of the strongest judicial pushbacks against executive immigration power in modern American history. ICE operations in West Virginia have included raids on Mexican restaurants, arrests of workers on rooftops, and detentions during public events like Fayetteville's Bridge Day celebration. These highly visible enforcement actions have amplified fear and controversy. Local leaders responded differently. Some praised enforcement, while others urged compassion and community solidarity. In Morgantown, city officials encouraged residents to support immigrant neighbors rather than fear them. Meanwhile, advocacy groups criticized ICE tactics as aggressive, excessive, and lacking accountability. As fear spreads, immigrant communities have begun organizing. People now alert one another when ICE agents are spotted. Lawyers, scarce in rural West Virginia, are rushing to provide Know Your Rights training to immigrants who feel vulnerable and confused. According to legal advocates, some immigrants were detained while attempting to follow legal pathways to citizenship, including attending court hearings. They're doing things the right way, one lawyer noted, and they're still being detained. This contradiction raises a critical question. If people are obeying the law, why are they being treated like criminals? Governor Patrick Morrisey publicly praised Trump's immigration crackdown, framing ICE arrests as a public safety victory. ICE later claimed it arrested 650 immigrants in a 2-week period, including individuals with criminal records. However, the agency did not disclose how many detainees had no criminal convictions, a key detail critics argue is intentionally vague. Investigations from ProPublica found that the vast majority of immigrants deported under Trump had no criminal record, contradicting claims that enforcement targets only violent offenders. Judge Goodwin issued a powerful reminder. Liberty is not a prize for procedural persistence. It is the baseline. This statement reinforces the idea that freedom should not be earned through endless legal battles. It is a fundamental right. The courts are signaling a deeper warning. If immigration enforcement ignores constitutional limits, it threatens the rights of everyone, not just immigrants. While legal battles unfold, lawmakers in West Virginia have passed new bills expanding state-level immigration enforcement. One proposed law criminalizes anyone who helps immigrants avoid detention, even though such acts are already federal crimes. Another bill restricts how closely citizens can film law enforcement, raising concerns about transparency and accountability. Civil liberties groups argue these measures reduce oversight and increase the risk of abuse. In a Charleston courtroom, Danny Brasino Solano sat in shackles, wearing an orange inmate uniform. He had waited 10 days in jail for a chance to plead his case. Solano fled Venezuela after allegedly being kidnapped by a government-linked guerrilla group. He applied for asylum through legal channels. He was not accused of violence. He was not a flight risk. He was seeking legal protection. Yet he remained detained, illustrating the emotional, psychological, and legal toll of aggressive immigration enforcement. Judge Thomas Johnston, appointed by a Republican president, echoed Goodwin's concerns. Despite differing political backgrounds, both judges questioned the legality of ICE arrests. Their bipartisan skepticism suggests this issue transcends politics. It's about law, fairness, and constitutional integrity. Immigration enforcement controversies have escalated nationwide, including fatal encounters involving U.S. citizens. These incidents have sparked protests, calls for accountability, and renewed debate over federal power. Critics argue enforcement has become militarized, rushed, and politically driven rather than legally grounded. This situation raises urgent national questions. Are immigration laws being enforced fairly or politically? Are constitutional protections being applied equally? Should detention require clear evidence, or is suspicion enough? Are we protecting security, or sacrificing civil liberties? West Virginia has become a test case, and the outcome may shape immigration law nationwide. Trump's ICE raids in West Virginia represent more than immigration enforcement. They symbolize a growing conflict between executive power and constitutional limits. Federal judges are sending a message. Government agencies cannot jail people without lawful reason, evidence, and due process. The Constitution is not optional. Rights do not disappear because someone speaks a different language or comes from another country. As communities wrestle with fear, politics, and legal uncertainty, one truth stands out. How a nation treats the most vulnerable reflects the strength of its democracy. The outcome of these court battles could determine whether America remains a nation governed by laws or by unchecked power.